This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
And California Chrome gliding along. He's gone clear by 4 as they come to the 8th pole. And California Chrome is absolutely sensational. California Chrome will be carrying the hopes of California all the way to the Kentucky Derby. He waltzed home under Victor Espinoza.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Down the Stretch. I'm Mark Asano. On this morning's show, we'll take a look at Wise Dan's 7-year-old debut. We will take a look at a pair of top 3-year-old fillies from last year returning for races in their 4-year-old campaign. During our 3-year-old segment, take a look back at both the Santa Anita Derby and the Wood. We'll update our Derby Dozen, and we'll welcome in a pair of special guests, both with contenders in this afternoon's Bluegrass. Mr. Dale Romans, who is wheeling medal count back in just 8 days, and Mr. Chad Brown, who's Bobby's Kitten, arguably the best 3-year-old grass horse in America, will try the synthetic at Keeneland. So all of that and much, much more if you stay with us for this, our April 12th edition of the program, which is being sponsored by Parting Glass Racing, Saratoga's original racing partnership. Visit them on the web at partingglassracing.com. Good morning once again on what figures to be a gorgeous spring weekend here as we get closer to mid-April on Masters weekend, the Arkansas Derby and the Bluegrass ahead of us later this afternoon, and a big show for you this morning. We begin. Trainer Joe Aquilino, a mainstay on the NYRA circuit for better than 30 years, died this past week at the age of 76. The affable Aquilino, who we first had on the show back in 1999, when his badge captured the Gotham and went on to be third in the Preakness, joined us several years later to discuss his fine New York-bred grass filly, Sabelina. He was a very nice man, and our condolences go out to his family and friends. And Richard Dickey Small, who trained so successfully in Maryland for decades, died last Friday night at the age of 68. We had Small on the show back in 1994 when his concern finished second to Holy Bull in the Travers, then went on to capture the Breeders' Cup Classic. But it was Broad Brush who I remember best with Small. He won 12 stakes, including an incredibly close decision over my boy Ferdinand in the 1987 Big Cat. Broad Brush would get worked up coming into a race, and Small would put him in the back of his van and drive him around. It calmed Broad Brush down to the tune of about $2.6 million. Small also trained the very nice filly, Caesar's Wish. Our condolences. And Bull in the Heather, a son of the aforementioned Ferdinand, who won the 1993 Florida Derby, has died at the age of 24. And Grade 1 winner Egg Drop, who captured last year's Grassy Matriarch, has been retired due to a very minor injury. And finally, Lee, who was pointing for the $1.5 million Charlestown Classic and a battle with Game On Dude, will miss that race due to a fever. Lee looked terrific earlier this year at Gulfstream, winning both the Don and the Hal's Hope. And Hall of Fame rider Edgar Prado was injured in a training accident yesterday, suffered a fracture, and will be out about 30 days. All right. Yesterday, the Makers 46 Mile and the 2014 debut of the two-time reigning Horse of the Year, Wise Dan. He is number 3 in here, and no surprise, he is the odds-on favorite. The main threats, according to the tote board: number 1, Za Approval, second to Wise Dan in last year's Breeders' Cup Mile, and number 6, Lokti. Sharp coming off a perfect trip second in the Kilroe Mile and last. Number 5, Reload, was a late scratch. For the call of the Makers 46 Mile, here's Kurt Becker.
They're at the post. And they're off in the Makers 46 Mile. Alakazam, and Gentleman's Kitten, and also Za Approval. These three all showing some early speed as the field heads for the first turn. Alakazam, the long shot outward from the rail with Za Approval there toward the inside, contesting the top spot. Gentleman's Kitten caught wide around the first turn, goes in the third position out toward the center of the course, and then Wise Dan in fourth, right behind that trio, under a firm hold here early as the field hits the backstretch, just a length and a half off the lead as Gentleman's Kitten moves up from the far outside now to take the top spot. Lokti is next to last early on, and Kagan, the trailer, 23 and 4/5 seconds, the time for the opening quarter. Gentleman's Kitten, center of the course, leads it by a head. Alakazam now moves up, gets the lead in next. Za Approval right there, but third down toward the inside. Wise Dan in the clear, fourth up on the outside, into the far turn. Lokti is there in between horses, looking for some running room now, and Lokti starts to move up from fifth to fourth to third, is caught between horses. Wise Dan is there toward the far outside. Lokti and Wise Dan moving as a team midway on the final turn, past Alakazam, who's now in third. Gentleman's Kitten fourth. Kagan swings wide in fifth. Za Approval has gotten the shuffle to last. Lokti, the leader. Wise Dan, though, pokes ahead in front, coming to the eighth pole. Long shot. Kagan is third, but 4 lengths away. Wise Dan, final furlong of the Makers 46 Mile. John Velasquez checks back over his shoulder, keeps an eye on Kagan, who goes to second. Wise Dan chased to the line by Kagan, but it's career win number 20 for the 7-year-old. The 2-time Horse of the Year, Wise Dan, wins it. He's back.
Welcome back, Wise Dan, as he returns with a handy 1-length score over Kygun, who was somehow the longest shot on the board. Johnny Velasquez kept Wise Dan well out on the course and in the clear, and when you're riding a great middle-distance turf horse, you can do that. And yes, he is a great middle-distance turf horse. Wise Dan is 12 for 13 on grass, having won his last dozen starts on the proper surface. His 20th career victory in total. Wise Dan is expected to leave the cozy confines of middle-distance turf racing at some point this year to go back to dirt, but you know, that's the call of owner Morton Fink and to a lesser degree, trainer Charlie Lepresti. You know, I would expect to see him back on dirt at some point this year, although his next start likely to be the Woodford Turf Classic on Derby Day at Churchill. Also on Friday, the Grade 1 Apple Blossom at Oak Lawn, and in front, on her way to victory, is Close Hatches, the odds-on favorite. Under Joel Rosario, the Bilmont-trained filly would score by a length and a quarter over On Fire Baby, the gray, who has been winless since she upset last year's Apple Blossom. The main mid-season goal for Close Hatches, the $1 million Ogden Phipps on Belmont Stakes Day, where she could meet both Champion Beholder as well as Princess of Sylmar. And speaking of Princess of Sylmar, next up, her return in last Sunday's Cat K Stakes at 1 mile at Aqueduct. Princess of Sylmar, number 3, the 3-5 favorite. This, of course, her 4-year-old debut. The last time we saw her on the track was when she stumbled at the break and ran poorly in last year's Breeders' Cup Distaff. Now, according to her trainer, Todd Pletcher, Princess of Sylmar had been training very well, and they were expecting her to run quite well in here. Her owner, Schenectady native Ed Stanko, said she had gained about 150 pounds over the winter. Here she is sitting off a lively pace set by highest maintenance, 22.97, 45.61, 109.64. Now that was wind aided. As she moved to the far turn, she would split rivals on the turn, and when second choice Wedding Toast number 6 tried to get out on the turn, Then she would split her, and with a final quarter mile against the wind of 25.15, Princess of Sylmar would go on to a 3.5 length victory in what I thought was a very fine comeback. As I mentioned earlier, the June 7th Ogden Phipps for $1 million at Belmont is where she is pointing for. Other races being considered for Princess of Sylmar this year: the Delaware Handicap, the Personal Ensign at Saratoga, and the Beldame. And while it is, really too early to discuss this seriously, the Breeders' Cup Distaff at Santa Anita is really quite questionable at this time. Nice to see Princess of Sylmar back, and it should be a very exciting year for her and owner Ed Stanko. Older sprinters in an early season Grade 1 in the Carter Handicap, and in front through pretty conservative fractions is number 4 Dad's Caps, the second lowest weight in the field. Under Luis Contreras, Dad's Caps would get away with a 23.58 opening quarter and a half in 46.56. He would open the lead here and have enough left to hold off the high weight Sahara Sky to upset the Carter by a length and a half. Dad's Caps had never won a stakes race of any kind previously, but is now a Grade 1 winner, and gave his trainer Rudy Rodriguez as well as Contreras their first Grade 1 victories. Next up for some of these, certainly for Sahara Sky, is a trip to the Metropolitan Handicap. And we are up to our first break on this April 12th edition of the program. When we return, it's our 3-year-old segment. As we go to the break, the Gazelle at Aqueduct, and the 4-5 favorite, number 4, My Miss Sophia. So we will take a look at a piece of the Gazelle to the break, back with our 3-year-old segment right after these messages.
So entering the backstretch run, My Miss Sophia. Javier Castellano rationing out that speed to maintain a 1-length margin over Vero Mori running along in second. Sweet Reason is third. Birdmaker fourth on the outside. Got Lucky's being nudged along. Nonetheless, she's dropped about 7 lengths from the lead. And the trailer is Wraith, continuing down the backstretch run. My Miss Sophia just sailing along here. Got through a half in 48 1/5 seconds. Vero Mori continues on, has been second throughout as they move into the far turn. Birdmaker starting to advance as they move into the far turn, just to her inside. Sweet Reason, who's had a ground-saving journey throughout. 3 lengths back to Got Lucky, long way back to the long shot Wraith. Midway around the far turn, 12 1 was the 3/4 mile mark for My Miss Sophia, who's trying to take them all the way on the lead. And she is in control as the field turns for home. My Miss Sophia in front. Sweet Reason comes to the attack now. Off the rail and now running in second. Vero Mori is third. Got Lucky putting in her bid on the outside, but she's still 5 or 6 lengths behind My Miss Sophia, who's got another gear. Plenty left for the final furlong here. And here's Got Lucky on the outside of Sweet Reason, but they're coming down to the finish, and My Miss Sophia, it was just a stroll in the park for her today. And she sails under the wire, an emphatic winner of the Gazelle. Got Lucky was second. Sweet Reason was third. Vero Mori fourth.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Casano, and My Miss Sophia for Todd and Javier controls the pace en route to a 7 1/4 length victory in the Gazelle over Got Lucky and Sweet Reason. Todd said that both the winner and the runner-up will go on to the Kentucky Oaks. All right, we begin our 3-year-old segment in earnest with the Santa Anita Derby and the battle between our top 2 Kentucky Derby prospects. Number 5, California Chrome, the 7 10 favorite, with number 6, Candy Boy, coming off an 8-week layoff, the 2.5 1 second choice. The only other colt in here taking money was number 3, Opportunity, the Rebel winner, who was the 4-1 third choice. Now, the racetrack was very, very fast. While both California Chrome and Opportunity already had enough points to get into the Kentucky Derby, Candy Boy needed a first or second place finish to assure himself a spot in Louisville. For the call of the Santa Anita Derby, here's Trevor Denman.
And away they go in the Santa Anita Derby. California Chrome in a little tight in the beginning, and so was Candy Boy. They didn't have to check or anything, but they were in a tad tight. Dublin Up has crossed over very quickly. California Chrome is right there, and Candy Boy. So California Chrome, Candy Boy, nose and nose from the opening of the gate. School of Hard Rocks has caught 4 wide, going to try to drop in now. Behind that comes Opportunity in the red colors, gives them 4-length start. They're in no big hurry out on the lead. Behind that comes Big Tire, who's sent along third last. Behind that comes Friends with K Mill, and Pretty Boy Floyd is last, but no more than 6 lengths would cover the lot. Onto the backstretch they go, and Kent Sormo on the long shot, Dublin Up, trying to take them along as slow as he can. California Chrome between them now, and on the far side is Candy Boy. Now half a length separates the 2 favourites. Opportunities in the red colours, School of Hard Rocks on the far side. Big Tire racing between them, and Friends with K Mill down at the rail. Pretty Boy Floyd is last, still 6 lengths would cover them all. Into the turn they go now, and Dublin Up on the inside, and California Chrome, Candy Boy on the far side, and Opportunity now. Opportunity going well in the red. Can he find a way through down at the rail? Pretty Boy Floyd's in with a shot too. Top of the lane in the Derby. California Chrome kicks for home, and he opens up on them. And California Chrome gliding along. He's gone clear by 4 as they come to the 8th pole. And California Chrome is absolutely sensational. California Chrome will be carrying the hopes of California all the way to the Kentucky Derby. He waltzed home under victory.
California Chrome, in spite of getting a little antsy in the gate and missing the break slightly, comfortably stalked the pace, opened the lead, and went on to an easy 5 1/4 length victory over Opportunity to win the Santa Anita Derby and establish himself as the likely favorite for the Kentucky Derby. Candy Boy, who stalked wide throughout, just outside of the winner, flattened out at the quarter pole and struggled home third. We'll begin with California Chrome. Unlike the San Felipe, where he beat the gate and made the front immediately, his slightly tardy start here cost him very early position. But Victor Espinoza used his natural speed to get him into a stalking spot just outside of an improving maiden Dublin Up. What I love and have loved about California Chrome since his powerful win in the January 25th Cal Cup Derby is the way he has learned to relax while attending the pace. Granted, this is a maiden that he is stalking, and it's over a Santa Anita strip, which is very beneficial to speed and tactical speed. But even factoring that in, this performance was outstanding. The way California Chrome behaved, the way he sat so comfortably until Espinoza asked him to go. Then, well, it was pretty much over without the rider asking much from him late. Just a beautiful final prep. I will say the same thing I told you earlier this year. If you like California Chrome in the Kentucky Derby, you want him to draw outside of most of or all of the other early speed. You would much rather see him in posts 16 through 20 than 1 through 5. Art Sherman, his trainer, who is very easy to root for, we spoke to him just before we came on the air this morning. Art told our associate producer, Julie Hoxie, California Chrome came out of the Santa Anita Derby better than he came out of the San Felipe. He galloped this morning. He will work a half mile next Saturday. and will ship to Churchill Downs the Monday of Derby week. This is a perfect example of how dramatically 3-year-olds can change. He began 2014 as simply the answer to the trivia question, who won the final stakes race in the history of Hollywood Park? Now he's the Kentucky Derby favorite. As for the runner-up Opportunity, considering he was beaten soundly by 5 1/4 lengths and did enjoy a beautiful trip, I liked his effort quite a bit. I admit to not really knowing exactly what his Rebel win meant, just how good it was. But I like him quite a bit more now than prior to the Santa Anita Derby. Got to remember a couple of things. He was coming back in just 3 weeks in here following the Rebel. Bob Baffert felt he needed another race between the Rebel and the Kentucky Derby, and this spot was the best. Now, in those 3 weeks, Baffert went a bit easy on Opportunity, giving him just a single 5 furlong work in a very conservative time for a Baffert runner. Now, I'm not the biggest Baffert fan, but he did tell the public before this race that the Santa Anita Derby was simply a prep for the Kentucky Derby, that his colt wouldn't be at his very best. I mentioned earlier that Victor Espinoza didn't use California Chrome hard at all the last part of the race, and the same goes for Mike Smith on Opportunity. Watch the stretch run here. Pay close attention to Smith, who never really asks Opportunity for all he's got. It will be very interesting to see who Smith chooses for the Kentucky Derby, as he's ridden Intense Holiday, Midnight Hawk, he rides Commissioner today, and some others, in addition to Opportunity. While Opportunity has sufficient Derby points, Candy Boy may not. It's very interesting what has happened the past several weeks. Both Candy Boy and Cairo Prince, who were both very highly thought of, came off 8 and 9 week layoffs to the Florida and the Santa Anita Derbies, respectively. They both needed first or second place finishes. Cairo Prince ran 4th. Here, Candy Boy a poor 3rd. Now, I don't know if this effort from Candy Boy is a true indication of his ability at this time or if he needed the race. While both John Sadler on your left and Kieran McLaughlin on your right know their colts better than anyone, they may have misjudged the Derby point system just a bit. Instead of freshening Candy Boy and Cairo Prince early in the year, in late January and early February, when prep races weren't worth many points, both chose to skip more valuable races like the San Felipe and the Fountain of Youth. And both men have to be highly disappointed with the position they find themselves in right now. It's possible that both Candy Boy, currently 15th on the points list, and Cairo Prince, currently 16th, make the Derby field. But that's all dependent on, what happens this afternoon in the Arkansas Derby and the Bluegrass. I have a feeling, and it's only my feeling, that next year, both Sadler and McLaughlin might take different approaches with their Kentucky Derby prospects. Next up, the Wood Memorial and the 8-5 favorite, number 11, Social Inclusion. Not exactly an ideal post position for this lightly raced colt. 3-1 second choice, the unbeaten New York bred Samrat. 5-1 Uncle Si, another New York bred who had finished just behind Samrat in each of his last 2 starts. For the call of the Wood Memorial, here's Tom Durkin.
The start of the Wood Memorial. And they're off. Uncle Si off a beat slowly, and Luis Contreras is sending Social Inclusion toward the lead, but outsprinted early here by Sam Rotten just to his inside. Goes Chiavarelli as the field moves into the first turn. So it is Chiavarelli to be the early leader here. Samrat runs along in second. Social Inclusion gets hung up 3 wide, and he's very keen to go on now. Now he's up into second position. The Noble Moon down toward the inside third. Samrat settles back, racing along in fourth. Cristo, the Californian, is back in 5th place now on the far outside. Harpoon running in tandem with Wicked Strong. They are 6th and 7th, about 5.5 lengths from the lead now. And then on the outside, it's Uncle Si, Los Barachos, and the trailer is FNX. 23-3 was the opening quarter, and Social Inclusion in a duel down the backstretch here with long shot Chiavarelli. Christo's in behind them now and has moved up in the pack to be third. A strong half mile was up in 47 2/5 seconds. Samrat between horses being hustled along now with a half mile to go. Noble Moon down inside as a ground saving fifth. Wicked Strong is just starting to get underway. He's 5.5 lengths behind as Social Inclusion now is starting to assert himself as they round the far turn. Samrat is making a move here with less than 3 furlongs to go. 3/4 up in 1:11 flat. Social Inclusion will come to the top of the stretch, leading by 2.5 lengths. Samrat undefeated, but second as the field now turns for home. Chivarelli down toward the inside races third, and Wicked Strong is fourth on the outside. Social Inclusion tested like he's never been tested before. Chivarelli down inside. Samrat as Wicked Strong comes gobbling up ground down the center of the racetrack. And here is Wicked Strong, who sweeps to the lead in the final furlong. And Wicked Strong wins it going away.
Wicked Strong, returning to New York after 2 subpar efforts at Gulfstream, rallies to a 3.5 length victory in the Wood. Samrat just nosed out Social Inclusion for the place, putting that highly hyped Florida shipper in jeopardy of missing the Kentucky Derby on points. Now, Wicked Strong left for Florida last winter as a wise guy colt, having run a very close third in that bizarrely run Remsen. But his 2 efforts at Gulfstream made him somewhat of an afterthought, although his last race in Florida, a 4th beaten 6.5 by Constitution in a February allowance, was a little bit better than it looked on paper. Well, here, benefiting from the inside post and a fair racetrack, Wicked Strong sat comfortably close to a contested pace set by Chivarelli and Social Inclusion, the latter who was a bit anxious going to the post. 23.79, 47.47, 111.16 was both legitimate as well as contested. Social Inclusion did not have his own way on the front end like he did in his Gulfstream finale, where he set a track record and set off a reported bidding war to purchase the 2-time winning colt. When Social Inclusion would open the lead turning for home, instead of going on, Luis Contreras had to get into him immediately. At the same time, Rajiv Marat, who had saved ground throughout, swung Wicked Strong outside for the stretch run, and the Jimmy Jerkins trainee would roll to the open length score. Samrat, who raced in and amongst horses for really the first time in his career, never threatened the winner, but did come back on to nail second by a nose, a placing that Social Inclusion desperately needed. Chivarelli, who was inside under pressure from the favorite through much of the trip, held pretty well for 4th. So what do you attribute the marked improvement from Wicked Strong to? Is Gulfstream Park just ridiculously unfair for come-from-behind horses? Did he get the contested pace and type of trip he needed in here? You know, he's certainly likely to get a pace in the Kentucky Derby to run into. Jimmy Jerkins and Rick Violet, the latter, the conditioner of Samrat, said they will train their charges in New York, then ship to Churchill about 5 days out from the Derby. Gary Contessa, the trainer of Uncle Si, who missed the break, said he would like to run in the Derby if he can get in, and he might run him with blinkers. Uncle Si is currently 17th on the Derby points list with 24. Social Inclusion would run in Louisville if he could get in. He's currently 21st on the list with 20 points. I'll tell you, that place photo was critical to him. Social Inclusion would go to the Preakness if he doesn't get into the Derby. His owner, Ron Sanchez, who said that he had turned down $8 million for 75% of Social Inclusion, lost a lot of money by running third in the Wood. Finally, the Calder Derby, and third on the outside is the 1-5 favorite Ring Weekend, coming off a wire-to-wire upset of the Tampa Bay Derby in last. Here, after breaking a bit awkwardly, he stalked the pace outside. When our caravan made the front around the turn here, Ring Weekend appeared set to pounce. But instead, ran very greenly after being intimidated some in upper stretch and wound up getting beaten nearly 10 lengths. Now, Graham Motion, the trainer of Ring Weekend, chose this race because it was a soft spot, and the colt already had enough points to get into the Kentucky Derby. So do you want to go to Churchill off this type of effort? And if you do, does Ring Weekend need to be in front? Because he still looks to be a bit intimidated. Now, Albano, this is big. Albano, who is 15th on the Kentucky Derby points list with 34, has been withdrawn from consideration for America's Greatest Race. His connections felt it was in his best interest. He's a May foal. They feel he needs more time in a less stressful race. You know, that's a refreshing stance to take, but that's a major defection because it allows a horse below him, you know, possibly a Cairo Prince, possibly a Candy Boy, possibly a Social Inclusion, possibly an Uncle Si, to get into the Kentucky Derby, where if Albano was running, one of those at least would be omitted. All right, very quickly before we get to the break, our updated Derby dozen as of April 12th. We are just 3 weeks in front of America's Greatest Race. This list features a new number 1, a debuter at number 3, and an upgrade to the first 2 finishers from the Rebel Stakes. At number 1 is California Chrome. At number 2, moving up 5 spots, is Hopportunity. At number 3, Wicked Strong, who was on our list very early in the year, you know, until he raced poorly at Gulfstream. He's back on the list and up at number 3. Constitution's at 4. Tapiture and Bayern, who will do battle later this afternoon in the Arkansas Derby, are at 5 and 6. Candy Boy drops from 1 to 7. Cairo Prince, Cheetu, and Social Inclusion remain at 8, 9, and 10. Samrat drops to 11. And this is actually a Baker's Derby dozen. Tied for 12th, Intense Holiday and Vickers in Trouble, who are 2-1 in the Louisiana Derby. So our updated Derby dozen as we stand just 3 weeks out from the first Saturday in May. And we are up to our next break. When we return, Mr. Dale Romans will join us as we go to the break. The Santa Anita Oaks, 6-5 favorite, number 3, Rhea Antonia, making her first start for Bob Baffert. 2-1 second choice, number 1, Fashion Plate. So we will take a look at a piece of the Santa Anita Oaks to the break. Back with Dale Romans right after these messages.
They head to the three-quarter pole, and Gary Stevens has Fashion Plate striding along on the lead, leads it by just over a length. Honey Riders tracking from the second spot. In behind that is Artemis in third. They followed by Rhea Antonia, now 4.5 off that leader. Behind that comes Smooth It. Bajan's dropped back second last, now giving them 8-length start and 1.5 lengths to Arethusa. They head to the half-mile pole, and Fashion Plate still shows the way by 1 length. Honey Rider's right there second. On the inside is Artemis. Rhea Antonia is now in fourth, 3 lengths off the leader. Another 4 back to Smooth It. Bajan runs up on her outside, and still last of all is Arethusa. They've run past the 3/8 pole, and Fashion Plate goes on for home. Fashion Plate kicks away for home. Now here comes Rhea Antonia to take her on. Fashion Plate and Rhea Antonia coming to the top of the lane to dispute this one. Honey Rider's in behind that. Arethusa's running on late. They're at the top of the lane in the Oaks now, and Fashion Plate goes on. Fashion Plate the leader. Rhea Antonia coming to take her on. Bajan is starting to get involved late. Fashion Plate holds on to the lead. Rhea Antonia on the outside. Fashion Plate now keeps on finding, and the more they asked, the more she gave. Fashion Plate and Gary Stevens have won the Santa Anita Oaks. Rhea Antonia again second. Bajan finished third.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
big day is here. You've told everybody. You've dressed the part. Your heart is pounding in your chest. Your horse is rolling down the stretch. He's coming. He's closing. He's the winner! You're a winner with Parting Glass Racing. PartingGlassRacing.com. PartingGlassRacing.wow!
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Asano, and Fashion Plate for Simon Callahan and Gary Stevens, wire-to-wire by a length and a quarter over Rhea Antonia to win the Santa Anita Oaks. Both of those fillies on their way to Churchill for the Kentucky Oaks. Our first guest this morning will wheel back medal count in just 8 days for this afternoon's Bluegrass at Keeneland. We welcome in live via telephone Mr. Dale Romans. Dale, Mark Casano welcoming you back to the show.
Mark, thanks for having me.
Always nice to have you, Dale. I mentioned medal count coming back in just 8 days. He is coming back off a victory in the opening day Transylvania. Our audience about to take a look at it. Medal count is number 1. Dale, why are you wheeling him back so quickly?
Well, you know, it used to not be as unheard of as it is today. And he ran so well over the track. He didn't really have to work real hard. He only ran like the last quarter of a mile, really belly down. And I would have worked him hard on Saturday anyway. And, you know, it worked for Conquistador Cielo 30 years ago for the Belmont. And I thought if it was good enough for Woody Stevens, it was good enough for me.
Can't fault that logic. Now, when you went to the Transylvania, I mean, I assume you were thinking it would be a turf race. And I assume at that point, you really didn't have any thoughts of going to the Kentucky Derby. Has that changed?
Well, yeah, it has changed. And believe me, there's a lot of discussion going on whether or not we should just wait and run in the Bluegrass or go on to Transylvania. And Mr. Hughes wanted to take a little bit more conservative approach with the horse, and I don't think he was as sure about the horse as I've been because he has thrown a couple of clunkers. But the way he ran, it came off the turf, and it ran on the pilot, and he ran so well. And that's a big part of going over to Keeneland, is if you're going to like the track or not. And after the way he ran, Mr. Hughes said it was up to me if I thought the horse could handle it and it wasn't going to be causing many problems, that I could go ahead and run him in the Bluegrass, hopefully getting into the Kentucky Derby.
You know, Dale, what I liked about his effort in here, and obviously he benefited from the inside post in the Transylvania, something he won't have later this afternoon. But I liked the way he moved going down the backstretch to get into position for Robbie and then got through inside and it was all over.
What I liked was the way he overcame some adversity, and I hadn't seen that out of him. That was the only thing missing. I don't think he had quite the confidence that he has right now in some of his previous races. You know, he got bumped around pretty good going under the wire for the first time, and that's why he only had one horse beat starting down the backside. And Robbie said he just did whatever. He was push button. He eased him up there behind the leaders. He said when the whole turned for home, he just exploded through it, and he said he couldn't pull him up after the race. And that's one of the reasons we're back in here today.
Dale, he's a dynaformer, and many of them, you know, take a while to grow into themselves, to find themselves. Is that the case with medal count?
It wasn't physically. He's been physically a specimen from the day he walked into the barn, and it wasn't natural talent. It was mentally, to get his confidence up, to realize how good he is. And I think that's what we saw. Finally, the switch came on last Friday, and he's put the whole package together.
All right, how well did he come out of the Transylvania? How's he doing coming into this afternoon's Bluegrass?
Well, we wouldn't be running if he hadn't come out of it absolutely perfect. If there was any flaw or bump in the road this week, we were going to scratch, and Mr. Hughes told me that not to worry about the entry money or anything, just if I wasn't comfortable, scratch the horse. We had to go, Keeneland changed their policy, so we had to ship him from Churchill and be over there Thursday morning, and I've been over there the last 2 mornings and watched him train on the track, and I've never seen him go any better than he did yesterday. We drew a blood on him just to make sure that his blood work was good, and it was perfect. And, you know, I don't think that we're going to have any excuses today.
Well, you talked about the possibility of the Kentucky Derby. We know that Metal Count is very good on synthetic. He's very good on turf, but his one dirt start this year, I guess an okay fifth in the Fountain of Youth. Here he is coming around the final turn. He's number 3, fourth on the outside. You know, talk about his dirt form.
Well, he broke his maiden on it, even though it wasn't against the top competition. It was still a strong race, and he showed acceleration. And he trains well at Churchill every day on the dirt. And you know as well as I do that Churchill's a kind dirt track to horses that like any surface, much more so than about any place in the country. And you know, with Patio Prado running third in it, and he was more of a turf horse, and Dullahan running third in the Derby. I think Churchill's a track that fits most all horses.
All right, let's talk some strategy for this afternoon's Bluegrass. He is not well drawn. You're on the close to the extreme outside, but there appears to be plenty of early pace in this afternoon's Bluegrass. What have you and Robbie talked about, or what will you talk about strategy-wise?
We haven't talked about anything, and we probably won't. Robbie's ridden him 3 times, and I like my jockeys to go out there with in a situation like this especially. There's going to have to be some strategy in place. I don't want him to have to be thinking. I want him to react to what's happening down inside of him. And I don't want him thinking, well, he told me to go to the front or he told me to take back. Robbie's a Hall of Fame caliber rider. He's my go-to big race rider, and those decisions are going to be his once the gate opens.
Dale, it sounds good. And finally, for members of our audience who might like Metal Count but are a bit worried about the 8-day time frame, he's doing as well as he could be doing?
The 8-day time frame will not get us beat. I'm not going to say he's going to win. I think he's sitting on a huge, huge effort. I think he's the best horse in the race. But the 8 days isn't going to be an excuse we're going to use afterwards.
All right, sounds good. Dale, as always, thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch. All the best later this afternoon with Metal Count in the Bluegrass.
Thanks. I appreciate you calling. Thank
you, Dale. Dale Romans, ladies and gentlemen. Fascinating race. Fascinating in the sense, not necessarily for going on to the Kentucky Derby, but I have always felt since the day they installed the synthetic at Keeneland that it's a little bit on the quirky side, and you really have to like that racetrack. And certainly according to his form in the Transylvania, now he was beating grass horses going to synthetic, faces better horses this afternoon for the most part. But I think the one thing you don't have to worry about with Metal Count is the fact that he will like the Keeneland surface. And we are up to our final break. When we return, Mr. Chad Brown will join us. As we go to the break, the Ashland at Keeneland. The 17-10 favorite, number 6, Testa Rossi. A very, very nice turf filly trying synthetic. So we will take a look at a piece of the Ashland to the break. Back with Chad Brown right after these messages.
And Resistivity is alongside of Is Stanford contesting the lead stride for stride. Macaroon stalks the pace 2 lengths off the lead in third. On the back streets is fourth, and then a gap of 4 more lengths. Thank you, Mary Lou, fifth up on the outside. Testa Rossi is 6th back toward the rail. Rosalind is 7th. She's picked up several spots. She's going wide around the far turn. On the back streets and Rosalind going to angle wide. Thank you, Mary Lou needs room. Testa Rossi is looking for an opening down toward the inside. Room service coming wide. Rosalind, Testa Rossi, thank you, Mary Lou. Room service in fourth. Short stretch here in the Central Bank Ashland, and Rosalind comes forward for the lead, but has to hold off Room service on the outside. Thank you, Mary Lou is third. Rosalind trying to reach the wire. Room service trying to catch her. Rosalind, Room service, driving finish. Photo for the win in the Central Bank Ashland. Either Rosalind or Room service for the top spot.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Asano. My thanks to Dale Romans once again for having joined us. And what a finish in the Ashland, as Rosalind on the inside and room service on the outside, dead heat for the win. And you know, it's kind of ironic. Kenny McPeak trains Rosalind, and it was McPeak's golden ticket who dead heated for the win in the 2012 Travers. So Kenny finds a way to get pieces of these important grade ones. Our final guest this morning will be running my personal favorite 3-year-old turf horse, Bobby's Kitten, later this afternoon in the Bluegrass. We welcome in live via telephone Mr. Chad Brown. Chad, Mark Asano welcoming you back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Always nice to have you. Chad, as we take a look at Bobby's Kitten in his 2014 debut and last at Tampa, and for our audience, he's number 1. Talk about this comeback. What did you think of it?
I thought he did terrific. It was a short field, so we wanted to give him a little trial run, sitting behind horses if we could in an allowance race, and kind of use that as an experiment, looking at the Bluegrass. And such a short field with no speed, we just had to go to the lead like he normally does. And Javier really relaxed him beautifully in this race, and it was just pretty much a workout for him. Came back good out of it, and he seems to be training well.
Chad, his Achilles heel at times as a 2-year-old was the inability to relax early in races. Talk about that if you would.
Yeah, he's never given us any indication in his morning training that he would do that in the afternoon, because he's not a very aggressive horse in the morning. He's very laid back. He's got a wonderful attitude. Pretty straightforward training. He has caught us off guard a couple times in the afternoons, being headstrong, and as he's gained more racing experience, he started to get a little tougher in the afternoon to rate. Since the Breeders' Cup last year, we have taken some extra precautions to train him a little differently in the morning and put him in some different situations behind horses, and he's cooperated perfectly. Javier's even had the opportunity to sit on the horse in the morning behind horses, and he thought he switched off nicely in some of those workouts. So we're trying to give the jockey as many options as we can, because as we know, when the gate opens in these big races, anything can happen. I'm very comfortable with the horse rating behind horses today if the opportunity presents itself.
Chad, how much has Bobby's Kitten changed physically, mentally, from 2 to 3?
He's always been a laid-back horse, like I said, so, you know, it's more the same. He's just a real pleasure to be around the barn, and he's not hard on himself or hard on anybody around the barn. Physically, he's getting a little bigger. He's filled out a little more. He's always a good-looking horse, but he's doing all the things 2 to 3 that you'd like to see.
You have, I guess, arguably the finest 3-year-old turf horse in America. And there's that new $1.5 million grass race restricted for 3-year-olds at Belmont this summer. So why is he running on synthetic in today's Bluegrass?
Well, a couple reasons. You know, we've always really pointed towards this race before the mile and a quarter race at Belmont was ever written, and it's far away. It's, you know, not the 4th of July weekend. So, you know, these horses, when they're doing well and the big races are right in front of you, you need to participate in them. Now, obviously, it's a big Kentucky Derby prep as well, and you know, although I believe turf is this horse's best surface, and that's why I debuted him on it, and why we campaigned him on it last year. However, Mr. Ramsey would like to get this horse to the Derby if we can. He's never trained poorly on the dirt. I don't think it's his preferred surface, but if we were lucky enough for the horse to run well today and earn a spot in the Derby, we'd certainly at least take him to Churchill and give him a breeze or two over Churchill's dirt track to see how he handled it.
Now, we know Ken Ramsey is a very hands-on owner, very passionate man, loves the sport, but at this point he's already got, 2 horses that are in the Derby. If Bobby's Kitten earns enough points this afternoon, is he definite to go to the Derby? Or if he doesn't train so well at Churchill on the dirt, do you think you could talk Mr. Ramsey out of running him?
Mr. Ramsey obviously wants to get to the Derby from Kentucky. It's a huge goal for him. And like you said, he already has 2 other horses in the Derby. I found him to be wonderful to work with. Really, if I present him with a situation where I don't think it's in the horse's best interest to participate in a race, he's always abided by my judgment, really. That's a big what-if situation, though. We're not even there yet. And there's so many different scenarios this horse working over there and how he'd handle it. Churchill, to be fair, had a long history in the Derby of being kind to horses who started their career on the grass, several winners. So it'd be hard for me to say that this horse would have no chance on Churchill's dirt surface. It's just, it's a bridge I'd like to cross if I can get there. But first things first in the Bluegrass today, and he's going to have his hands full in this race. It's a loaded field, in my opinion.
All right, you also run on this afternoon's Keeneland card Stephanie's Kitten in the Jenny Wiley. Since you got her in the barn, Chad, what are your impressions?
She's really trained well. She's a great horse to work with. She came into me in excellent shape. Wayne Catalano had her for most of her career up to this point. He really did a good job of preserving her so she can race at age 5. And she did miss her prep race at Tampa, which was going to be my prep for the Jenny Wiley, and a minor little stall injury, cut herself. And I didn't get the prep race I was looking for, but she's trained very well. I think I have enough work into her where we could overcome this layoff today. She certainly classes up real well in this field, but there's some runners in there too. They don't give these grade 1s away, so she's going to have to come with her A race for sure.
Let's talk about a couple of horses who were in action recently, beginning with Coup de Grace, who turned back, overcame traffic, and won the Bayshore. As we pick it up, turning for home for our audience, Coup de Grace number 4. He is 5th on the outside. Chad, talk about this effort.
We were looking to cut this horse back, and Mr. Porter and I agreed after the Holy Bowl. We didn't get the trip we were looking for. Came out of the race a little wired mentally, back off a little bit and restart around 1 turn. And we had picked this race out off a layoff, and he really responded well, and he came out of the race terrific. So I think at this time we'll probably keep him around 1 turn for the time being.
So when we're looking ahead, we're looking at races such as the Riva Ridge, and when we get to Saratoga, the sprint races for 3-year-olds?
Correct. Yeah, that would be a terrific plan to stay on. And so far he looks like, and he's off a 70-day layoff there. He's probably going to move forward off that race. So we may just train him up to the Woody Stevens on Belmont Day. I'm not sure yet.
And finally, Normandy Invasion. And here he is in the New Orleans Handicap. Turning for home, he's moving up outside of Palace Malice, but the Belmont champ ran away from him in the lane. Were you disappointed to some degree in this effort?
I was disappointed with the result. I wasn't disappointed with the effort. I think the horse ran terrific. I'm proud of him. Rosie rode him terrific. I got the trip I was looking for, but when we hooked that horse at the top of the lane, he just rebroke on us, Palace Malice, and hats off to him. He just ran a terrific race, and I don't know if there's a horse in America that could have beaten him that day, to be honest. So I was proud of my horse that he did try him, and I think he ran his race. He's come out of the race well, and if Normandy stays healthy, he should have a terrific year this year. So there's a big race with his name on it, I'm sure.
What are you thinking about? What do you have penciled in for him next?
We're just not sure yet. He's back training at Belmont, and he's doing great. and I need to speak with Mr. Porter about where we're going to go next. A few different options, but we haven't even breezed him out of the Norland handicap yet, so I'll reserve any plans until we see him train a little bit more.
Is the Met Mile in play at all?
It's a possibility. It's certainly a possibility. He'll be nominated as that, and we'll see. There's a little time in between now and then. We'd like to run him before then if we can, but we're just not sure where and when yet.
Chad, as always, thank you for your time. Thanks so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch, and all the best with Bobby's Kitten and Stephanie's Kitten later this afternoon at Keeneland.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Chad. Chad Brown, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a look before we leave you this morning at the fields for this afternoon's Bluegrass and the Arkansas Derby. We will begin at Keeneland with the Bluegrass. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier, a couple of things. There appears to be sufficient early pace in here. And I truly believe that Keeneland is a bit of a quirky synthetic surface. If you heard Dale Romans a few moments ago, you heard him talk to you about medal count, how well he's doing coming out of the Transylvania. I like medal count. I don't particularly like the post position. Robbie Alvarado's going to have to find a way to save some ground. But I like the fact that medal count is doing so well, and he has run awfully well over this racetrack in the past. The other colt that interests me in here is Dance with Fate. Now, while Dance with Fate has run well on synthetic at both Del Mar and Golden Gate, and you know his second in the El Camino Real in last was a very fine second. Now, some people are downgrading that effort because Tamorando came east and did not run well in the Spiral. But you know, Tamorando was running extremely well up to that point, and I thought Dance with Fate was very, very game that day in Northern California. And even though that race was the middle of February, and we are now, you know, close to the middle of April, this was the race that Peter Urton was pointing for all the way. So I would say Medal Count and Dance with Fate interest me the most in this afternoon's Bluegrass. At Oaklawn, the Arkansas Derby. This is probably the more important prep as far as going on to the Kentucky Derby. Number 2, Knock 'em Flat, will be scratched out of here. Tapiture, you know, no knocks on him. Extremely consistent. But the horse who could make or break the Arkansas Derby, in my opinion, is Bayern. Now, this is his stakes debut. I understand that. He's only run twice. He hasn't been beyond a mile. But I think he is an exceptionally talented racehorse. I like the way he ran last time because he was inside under pressure. Now, granted, those weren't, you know, it was an entry-level allowance. They weren't terrific racehorses, although Tapit Rich, if he ever got his head screwed on straight, could be something. But I like the fact that Bayern draws outside today. And Gary Stevens should be able to place him wherever he wants him to be. And even though he hasn't run since the middle of February, I think he's going to run big this afternoon. Couple of fascinating long shots in here. Now, it's going to be tough to get past both Bayern and Tapiture. But you know, I liked Ride On Curlin in the Rebel last time. He ran a close third at 11-1, and he got the worst of it. He was on the worst part of the racetrack, inside under pressure. If he gets a softer trip this afternoon, Ride On Curlin could outrun his odds, and Conquest Titan, who was the beaten favorite in the Tampa Bay Derby. Folks, I don't put much stock into how you run at Tampa Bay Downs. I mean, Ring Weekend won that race easily and then got beat in the Calder Derby. But you know, there may be enough speed in here to set up Conquest Titan's late run. So again, if you're looking for a couple of horses who could outrun their odds, both Conquest Titan and Ride On Curlin, but I will be fascinated to see how Bayern comes back off the minor foot problem and the layoff in this afternoon's Arkansas Derby. All right, time to wrap things up. Time to thank all the folks who helped get this week's show on the air. Our associate producer, Julie Hoxie. Brian Dorenzo and Dino Contanacci here at the studios at the Clubhouse Racebook. Back in Schenectady, Pat Peretta directed, Vince Westcott on audio. Thanks to this morning's guests, Dale Romans and Chad Brown, and thanks to our sponsor, Parting Glass Racing, Saratoga's original racing partnership. Visit them on the web at partingglassracing.com. Later this afternoon, the Bluegrass in the Arkansas Derby. Remember, tomorrow, Palm Sunday, Capitol is closed. So have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy all the racing action from coast to coast here at Capitol. Have a terrific upcoming week. And from all of us here at Down the Stretch, we'll see you next week.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.